where the drama starts. Lap 30, 8 laps to go. Sam Doby hoping to take advantage of these lapped cars. Pileski dives onto the right side, very aggressive here. This is lap 4. The two Viceroys, Bill Frazier ahead of Matt Pileski. Frazier's off. Frazier hit the grass. You hit that tire wall, your day is done. Well, now it's lap 20. The Williams still trying to get around the Terrell team as he'll go around the left car and around Mills at the same time. At the same time, he's got the inside corner. Will he ride the curb? Yes, he will. He will get him on the inside. Vito Maria leading us all into Moss's corner. Look at the beauty as his right side will clip the grass. Oh, a 180, no, a 360. Oh. Who will yield going into this corner? It's really not meant for too wide as it will be Gernald. Gernald will yield. Lots of smoke picking up from that Williams car. He is pushing it to the absolute limit. 26 of 30 now. Only 4 laps to go. He's going to get the run coming out the final corner. He's going to pull up side by side with the leader. It's going to be a drag race to the finish. Who is going to get there first? It's going to be...
Road America is thought of as an old-school style road circuit, even by American standards. High speeds and a lack of runoff area make this a throwback to years gone by in which caution was thrown to the wind in favor of thrills. The Lotus 79 should feel right at home here, but it won't be an easy combination to drive. The multitude of slow corners tend to not play nice with the throttle of this car. Will it catch out our main contenders? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 5 of the Lotus 79 Classic Teams Championship, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Samuel Ryman. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sam, while F1 never raced here, IndyCar's made this place a home a number of times, so it certainly isn't foreign to open wheels.
Yeah, no, we ran this track with this car last year in the Lionheart Retro Series, and I recall it being a pretty good race. I mean, it really is a good combination here. There's heavy braking zones, long straightaways, plenty of passing opportunities, but also tricky courses as well. And I really think we're going to be in for a good race today, Joe. This is a very popular course. It's a lengthy one. It took over 4 miles, 6.5 kilometers in length, 14 turns, so not a great ratio of turns to miles on the circuit, and that's what means, that's what results in us having all these long straights, heavy braking opportunities, and plenty of places to make passes. Let's just give you a look on what it's like down on the track with our GSRC lap guide.
Alright, we've got Amjad Yaman in the GSRC Lotus 79, so let's do a lap around Road America. Coming across the start-finish line, the run down to turn 1 is going to be one of your best opportunities to pass. This first corner is admittedly pretty swift, but there's still plenty of braking to give you a chance to sneak up the inside. Watch the dirt on the exit because it can spin you. As we run through the short chute to turn 3, really focus on getting the exit right for this corner. Being able to defend or attack, as well as simply laying good lap times down, really depends on getting yourself a decent launch. You can see the moraine sweep is quite a long stretch, and it'll end into the heavy braking of turn 5. All of these factors combine to mean that this is easily one of the most popular passing spots on the track. Be careful though, because it's also terribly easy to overshoot. If someone has a nose in on you, try for the over-under. From there, it's a quick blast to turn 6 where the crest on entry will catch many drivers out. Do your best not to skitter off into the grass. Switch sides and then keep it flat through turn 7. We're now into the hurry downs, which ends with turn 8. Sneak attacks are possible here, and a lot of times drivers aren't expecting the need to defend. From there, get to the left and give yourself a nice wide entry under the bridge into the carousel. This corner feels like it goes on forever, but ideally you want to get a little wide so that you can cut back and open up the exit. That'll bring us to the infamous kink. Thankfully, the ground effects on the 79 make it a less scary proposition, and you can take it flat. Into the kettle bottoms, the track is going to weave left, which means to line up your braking for Canada Corner, try not to come in at an angle. Hug the left side, get it slowed up, and be careful not to get too aggressive on the brakes because there's not much sand trap before you find the tires. After that, turn 13A will be blind, but once again, no problem in the Lotus. Get the car back to the left side as soon as you can, and make sure to clip the apex and get to the power early for the final turn. Carry that momentum to ensure the car can chug up the hill with a lot of grunt behind it. Hopefully, you kept it all together and have now finished a lap around Road America.
Boy, that should give you a feeling of just how much speed they get down these straights. It is a lot of power under that engine cover that these things have. But let's take a look at the championship situation here now that we are a few rounds in. Gernot Friesche currently up at the top. Matt Wood is chasing very well, but the talk of the season has been Steve Bycroft, who has found himself to been able to tweak his setup to his liking a little better than normal. He's been talking about on the forums, using some of Gernot's setups that he's provided to everybody freely, and finding a lot of speed in that. Now, he hasn't gained any positions since last race, but he is staying within contention, and he's third in the championship. You can see Suarez and Herner both jumping up into the top 5. Now, Sam, what about the Constructors Championship? How's that sit?
Well, let's take a look here as we pull our teams up on screen. Here we see Renault still have the lead by 10 points over Williams, but a big jump up in the standings for Ligier. Ligier always seems to do quite well here in the Retro Series. It always seems to get a good driver roster. So they've jumped up into 3rd place ahead of Lotus and McLaren down there, 5th in the standings. So top 2 close together, then a bit of a gap, and you see a pretty good scrap going on from 3rd on back.
Let's talk about what exactly this race will have in store for our fans that are watching. Now, as mentioned, we are in round 5. And in that championship that we showed, there are drop weeks, both in the drivers and the teams. There you can see the 4 droplets for 4 of their worst results for the drivers that they drop, and then 2 for the team. And those points are done by the official iRacing points. So it is all based on the strength of field. Now, they are not scheduled to stop for fuel or tires, really, for that matter, usually on this 22-lap race. They do have an incident cap, though. They need to watch out for how many times they have off tracks or spins or any sort of problems that will rack up those incident points, or they will be disqualified. Now,
all right,
a
so,
bit of a development that I noticed behind the scenes there.
Yeah, jumping out of a pre-race checklist here and jump into the action down on the racetrack in qualifying. Gernot Friesche had a spin on his first qualifying attempt, and now he has lost the internet connection with just under 4 minutes left in qualifying. So, will our number 1 driver, the guy with the highest die rating in the field, which is saying something considering the lowest die rating in the field is 3,000 rather, will Gernot Friesche have to start at the back if he's even able to race at all?
Well, that'll certainly turn things around. This could wind up being a drop week once we start calculating those in. Bycroft, in the meantime, has provisional pole, and he's being followed by a driver we saw in the Camel GT series the other day. That is Colin Brown. He's currently in 2nd, but he's got 1 more lap to go, and he's got about a 10th and a quarter to make up to try and get onto that pole at the moment.
Working his way through the tricky middle sector. Here's one of those, we're coming up to one of those hard braking opportunities. We'll watch Friesche come up to it here, turn 8. So he's just came out of turn 6, through turn 7. And then downhill, heavy braking. This is a turn that can show you off, Joe, because it's not really the turn you're always thinking about where you set up for a lap here, but it's very easy to get wheel spin on exit there. And not the only time where that's the case.
So we watch the Virginia's driver come off of the carousel now, flying towards the very scary kink. They added safer barriers in real life, but no such thing here in iRacing's version. And he takes it through nice and safely. Now, one thing I took a glance at was the weather conditions, Sam. What kind of conditions did you run in the Lionheart series? Because today it is steaming out on the track surface at 114 degrees.
I can't remember what it was in the Lionheart series, Joe, but one thing to make a note of is I loaded a test session off of... there's a way to load test sessions on iRacing off of an official session, so it sets the conditions and all the regulations up.
Sorry to interrupt. Fraser just took pole away. So Frazier up to the top, Sam, and that's going to change the complexion of things. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's very. We weren't expecting that. He's got the number 12 on his car, so definitely qualifying ahead of some big names here. Gurno Freach, by the way, still hasn't connected. But anyway, what I was saying, I was loaded the test session based off of the rules that iRacing uses to create this race. And that test session had the track temperature at 85 degrees. So it seems that, with the track temperature here being 115 degrees, that the weather is jumping around session to session. So, some drivers might be coming better prepared to this race if they've been practicing in sessions with hotter weather. Maybe that's the advantage that Adam Frazier has had.
Could be. We're seeing what Suarez can do, currently in 12th. This is top split, by the way. We have 2 splits out here today, so all the drivers with the highest I rating get slotted into this one, making it worth all the more points. Suarez, second lap, a 54.5. He does improve up to 8th position. That'll be a 4th row start for him.
2 drivers yet to complete a lap there. You see them at the bottom of your scoring pylon, Gurno Freach and Philip Blake. As a matter of fact, I think our fans will enjoy our scoring pylon today. We have 20 cars and we have enough room for 20 names, so you'll be able to keep track of where your favourite driver is going throughout the whole race.
And is Unhola going to be able to cross for a second lap? No, he will not. So just didn't make it in time. He was feet from it. Let's go through your starting grid and how things will look when we get the green flag. Adam Frazier, as we mentioned, pipped to the pole, up ahead of Steve Bycroft, rounding out the front row with Cullen Brown, coming back for more high downforce car action, starting 3rd. Nicola Kochi has been touted as being very fast this week. He'll be starting 4th. David Rolfe in 5th place. Juhan Norlampi, unusually low qualifying for him, down in P6. Eduardo Prado as well, starting in 7th, and Pablo Suarez will be P8. Then it's James Rawson in 9th, followed by Brandon Hawken, rounding out your top 10.
Rob Olyanek starts 11th ahead of Nicholas Mukanos. Marco Keller will be starting 13th alongside Chris Jansen. Barry West, he's all the way back in 15th place ahead of Dustin Horador. And then the slowest drivers who qualified were Tommy Unhola and Stefan Schlaker, but still just a couple of seconds off a pole. Gurno Freach has just rejoined the session, so we've got 1 minute left of grid in. We'll see if that number 1 car takes to the grid, starting from 20th and last alongside Philip Blake.
Oof, that's going to be a long slog of a race for him to get back up to the front. Not sure that a win is on the cards, but never say never as we watch them grid up here on that incline of a front stretch towards the start-finish line. Standing start, as is tradition here in the Lotus 79 series. Then we will go racing for 22 laps today in round 5 of the Lotus 79 Classic Teams Championship. Still waiting for Gernot to get out there and grid up. He may have connected to the server, but I'm not sure if the track has loaded for him.
Yeah,
he's running out of
10 seconds.
Ooh, this is going to be tight if he can make it out there.
5.
I'm not sure that he's going to do it.
All right,
Ticks
looks
down.
like Freach's pit starting.
Oof, so even more of a delay for him. Engines start to rev. The lights come up. Green flag is out. Off the line. Not the greatest of starts from Frazier. Bycroft is trying to take advantage of that. He gets a jump and is already side by side as they come down to the first corner, but he's not quite fully ahead. By the time they break, he slots back into second. A little bit of 3 wide farther back in the pack. Not seeing any incidents though.
19 cars get through the first turn cleanly. I saw at the back of a picture there, Freach sitting in his pit stall, waiting for the grid to go by. He'll be at a massive deficit. The rest of the field worrying about each other. They're still tightly bunched together as they come down the hill, although Frazier's got a bit of a breakaway. Heavy braking zone here into turn 5. Not unusual to see drama. Hopefully we don't see any this time around. But out for third, Nicola Cochi looking down the inside of Cullen Brown.
And Nora Lampe was watching from behind, hoping to take advantage. Looks like he's not going to be able to do that. Although, oh no, I take that back. Nora Lampe almost went around the outside of Kochi. Didn't quite work out. Oh, and contact behind them. We got an accident. Oh, and no, we don't. David Rolfe with a magic save. Somehow he corrected that car from almost being completely sideways through turn 7.
David Rowe showing that even though he has the number 17 on his car, the quality of his field is quite incredible. Even the drivers with the high numbers proving they're able to race the car around here at Road America. Marco Keller currently making a move on David Rofo. He's being dropped back and they're going side by side through the kink. That's dangerous. Thin single file up front here, but I'll tell you, in the middle of the field, we have a massive pack of cars being led by David Rofo.
There's almost 3 wide going through the kink. The
Oh,
back
and
of the
Rofo gets
field.
clipped and goes wide in Canada. Oh, and comes back on, and I think that's his teammate.
That was
Rob
Olenek.
Olenek.
Oh, no. Let's watch from Olenek's view. He was one of those that was really in the thick of it coming through the kink. Rofe has not had the best of starts, and his teammate certainly not looking as good. The Dirty Torque driver, yep, just gets clipped as he was trying to thread the needle.
Are they teammates, Joe, or just similarly painted?
It might just be similarly painted, but I do know that Olenek is a Dirty Torque driver, so as we come back live, Steve Bycroft giving chase to Frazier. They have dropped Nicola Kochi with his side-by-side battles he has been having, but he has overtaken Cullen Brown since we last looked. Down on the steep bank braking zone into turn 5, no change up at the top of the field. Most everybody's single file. Looks like Brandon Hawken had a bad exit out of turn 5, though. Eduardo Prado takes advantage of that. He moves up into 7th.
Yeah, speaking of drop, though, Joe, look at the left side of the screen on the scoring pylon. No numbers next to Gurno Free. I'm not seeing him on track. And Barry West, and now no numbers. That's because he is off track and falling back.
The turn 6. Let's see, a few cars involved in that. Looks like Rotor's going to take a look to the inside, clips him, and then it's a traffic jam. Look at this. Number of cars getting involved. Let's see who all made contact. Schlacker was in there. Mukanos made contact. A really miraculous escape, honestly, from Chris Jansen, who gained a number of spots slipping through the inside. It's that orange car that you see there.
Yeah, it's such a blind corner as well. I mean, you're just going under a bridge. It's a little bit off camber, a bit of a downhill to it as you're coming through that turn. So, unfortunate to see a few drivers suffer a bit of damage there, but not seeing anyone else out of a race. We're seeing Frisch and Oljanek lap down, but 18 cars still on the lead lap, still in contention. But boy, if you told me that Gurno Frisch and Juha Noralampi were going to be in a race and Frisch was going to have problems, I would say, well, the win's going to Noralampi then. Some drivers really amping up their game. They have Noralampi all the way back in 5th today.
Doesn't seem to be faring too well at this track, although he could get gain positions because he is chasing Brown and Kochi relatively close. There you see the Preacher in the orange and blue machine ahead of him. The black car is Cullen Brown, and the red machine is Nicola Kochi, appropriately Ferrari red for the Italian, but he slides through turn 5, and he's got to be careful about that.
In confirmation that Gurno Frisch did lose the internet connection again, so even if he comes back, obviously he's out of contention of fighting for any major position, so this could have huge points implications in the championship. But how much? I mean, honestly, if Frisch was having a bad race, he's probably happy to see Adam Frazier out here leading it.
Yeah, I guess that minimizes the damage for him, considering. But regardless, it is still a bit of a loss that he'll have to suck up with drop races for the moment. Ooh, the Preacher with a little bit of an off that we saw in the background coming off of the carousel. A dangerous moment for the Finn.
Adam Frazier, race leader, was really letting the rear end of his car hang out through Canada. I was watching him go through there, so he's definitely fighting to keep that car up in front, because of course it's one thing to get one fast lap in qualifying, it's another thing to do it 21 consecutive laps and win a race. And right now he has less than a second over Steve Bycroft. Of course, these are 1978 based Formula 1 cars, so there's no DRS or KERS or any special tools Bycroft can use to make a pass. He's got to do it the hard way. But the hard way isn't so hard around here. You do have some nice slipstreaming you can do down these long straights.
Only on lap 4 we've seen a lot of action, but despite that, we've only had 2 retirements. Olenek, whose incident that we saw down in Canada Corner, and Frisha, who we mentioned lost connection. Otherwise, Mukanos is our last car running on the track of the 18 that are still going. Jump back a little bit here to Hawkins, who's got a trio of cars ahead of him. That is Prado behind him. It is Pablo Suarez giving chase.
Yeah, you mentioned Mukanos there. I wanted to have a look back at him because he started 12th and he's down in 18th. I wonder if he sustained damage in one of the many little argy-bargy moments we've seen earlier this race.
He was involved in the incident with Olenek. You could see some on the front wing. Hopefully there's no suspension damage involved with that. I've been keeping half an eye on our leaders, and Frazier for a moment had managed to pull out to 0.8 of a second, but Bycroft's pulled him back in, and he's got it down to 0.3 with the slipstream pulling him up into Canada Corner. He runs out of straightaway before he can do anything with it.
The turn where Frazier was really letting the rear end hang out last lap. This time he keeps a little more planted, but I think you're right here, Joe. I think we might need both eyes on Bycroft because he is getting through the final turn nicely. He's definitely within striking range of Frazier as they come up the field to complete lap number 4 of 22 here at Road America. And there's not a whole lot Frazier can do if Bycroft's able to get this slipstream. However, he might run out of time. Frazier might be able to hold on. Bycroft sticks his nose out, but too late, and he'll have to try. Well, he might be able to try in a couple more turns. Frazier wide on the exit of 1 there. They go down into the second turn, which was appropriately named turn 3, and now they head towards to the third corner, which keeping consistency is named turn 5, and this is a very good overtaking opportunity. Bycroft knows it, Frazier knows it. He's going to try and go defensive, make Bycroft work for this position. Bycroft says, okay, I'll try and do that. I'm late on the brakes. I've got the faster car. I've got the lead.
Wow, decisive stuff hassled him until eventually he could get the run. Steve Bycroft may have not gotten the pole, but he is going to try to run away with this one. You talked about the difference between 1 lap pace and race pace. Can he now run away from the number 12? That'll be the big deciding factor. And all of this, they were far enough away from Nickel Kochi, who still sits in third, so he is not a factor, at least for now. He could also still try to gain on Frazier, depending on how this all plays out, but we'll have to wait and see. And one thing I was curious about, Sam, is in real-world modern Formula One, they talk a lot about the tires getting worn out when you follow too closely, and I know these cars have quite a big wake. Is that a bit of a concern? These cars, the tires tend to lose their goodness if you stay close behind someone too long?
I don't know about that per se, but I do think you have a point in that today we're going to see tyres wear out just because it's so hot. With these cars running around on the track, the sun continuing to beat down, the track temperature has gone up even more. It's like 118 degrees now. So I wonder if some drivers who haven't dealt with the track being this hot for whatever reason in practice or qualifying or any other races they've done this week, are they going to suffer from tyre wear, not necessarily due to aero wake or racing hard, but just from the track being so hot?
Right now, one of the hot battles is this battle for 4th that we see on screen. Actually, 3rd, I should say. Kochi, Brown, and Nora Lampe all still in a trio as they come down the Moraine Sweep towards turn 5. Kochi still the one leading in that final podium position. But Brown and Nora Lampe seem to be struggling to get any closer to be able to put on an attack with this scarlet-colored car.
It's still very early on in the race here, Joe, so even if I was Steve Bycroft and I've opened up my lead to about a second now, I'd want to be a little bit careful for the sake of the tyres that we were talking about, because we've still got a lot of racing to go.
This is true. There's a significant amount of the race left to go. And Steve Bycroft now 0.9 of a second ahead of Frazier. They come through the kink, and I mentioned it in the pre-race that Bycroft was being talked about by a number of drivers. I think he managed to get a win earlier this week in one of the other races. And he's finally get a little bit of cloud cover to cool things down slightly on the circuit. But Bycroft has said himself that he is simply using the setups that Gernot has been providing to everybody, making a few things, adjusting some of the settings to fit the car to his liking, and then from there he is off like a shot. Meanwhile, switching back to this battle for third place, a good run up the front stretch from Nora Lompe. Doesn't look like it's going to produce anything, even though he's getting closer to Cullen Brown.
Yeah, I don't think that was necessarily a good run out of the last turn there, Joe. Nora Lompe looked like his car stepped sideways, which was a shame for Nora Lompe fans, because I think he had Brown set up good otherwise for a potential pass for fourth. He's definitely thinking about it. I'd say it's one of the battles to watch on the track right now, is this battle for third, fourth, and particularly between fourth and fifth. But yeah, Brown still keeping Coachy honest up there. And I wonder now, these drivers should probably know that Steve Bycroft is leading this race, and maybe that's a bit of a hurry-up sign to them if they think Bycroft's going to be able to run away with it, if they feel Coachy is holding them up and they want to get up there on the podium, if not a step up or two on the podium, they might want to have to deal with this number 7 car soon.
The other thing they might be noticing is that Coachy's not falling back from Frazier at a very high rate of knots. It's very, very slow. So if they are faster than him, they could catch Frazier as well and maybe get second place away from him. We ride on board with the Italian looking back at Cullen. The Texas driver was up for a good finish in Monza with the Camel GT Series before a last lap wreck unfortunately took him out. Hopefully he can avoid that sort of incident here, but another high-speed track just with a few more braking zones.
Yeah, it's about all the similarities Monza and Road America have in comparison. There's a long straights, turns are quite different. All right, what are we going to see for fourth here? Because Nora Lompe looks like he's got a much better exit out of a turn than Brown.
Right on board, looking over the shoulder of Nora Lompe. He is gaining. It's down to 2 car lengths. He looks to the inside, but he comes back to the racing line, knowing he's not nearly close enough.
Not yet. The nice thing about this track, of course, is if you can't make it work in turn 1, try and make something happen in turn 5. That's what Bycroft was able to do the Frazier. It's not going to be what Nora Lompe is able to do the Brown, at least not this lap. Well, yeah, no, he's too far back.
Yeah, I'm not seeing him gain like he needs to. Coming down into the corner. He certainly looks strong under braking, though, as he good off the corner. Loses a little bit of time, but that bodes well for the Preacher. If he can get close enough, he could maybe send a dive bomb in and get himself into 4th position. Meanwhile, back in 8th, Hawken and Suarez. We were watching these two a little bit earlier. They are staying within half a second of one another. Suarez, the red and white machine you see trailing the black and white car of Brandon Hawken.
They might have well just let these drivers run with personalised numbers today, because they seem to have meant absolutely nothing. Here we see the 3 car being challenged by the number 20, and boy does that say something when Pablo Lombardo Suarez has the number 20. We're used to seeing him like with a number 10 car or so. He's got a very high I rate, and yet here he is, almost a second split driver. And right now they're trying to improve on his I rating and get 8th place away from Hawken. He had a look on him a few turns back. We'll see if he's able to do the same again. Well, a big moment from Hawken coming out of Canada. Really had the rear end stepped out. That'll help Suarez.
Yeah, he'll be looking for more of those. While that was happening, we don't need to go back to it. Phil Lake is now in the final position because he spun and Nick Mukanos easily overtook him. That was down in turn 5, but Lake continues on.
All right, can Nora Lompe do anything with Brown again? I'm keeping half an eye on those two as they're working their way through the first couple of turns. Tell you what, this is a big cloud that's gone in front of the sun. I'm sure the track's probably changed a little bit because it's been under cloud cover for a couple of laps now. And Brown driving a little bit defensively, trying to stop Nora Lompe from getting the run on him. And for whatever reason, Nora Lumpy's not able to. I wonder if he's running with higher downforce.
That could be. And the track is actually the coolest we've seen it all race long so far. Once again, showing how good he is on the brakes. Nora Lumpy closes in. But even still, the coolest it's been is 112 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface of the track. Oh, all the way 2 wheels off for Nora Lumpy. He's certainly pushing.
Just had a change for 14th place. David Roth got by Stefan Schlacker. So still a few battles going on out there. David Roth, of course, qualified up towards the front, 5th position, but had that off earlier on in the race and is trying to do a bit of a recovery drive. So he's made his way by the Hungarian.
Next on the list is Chris Jansen, who himself actually was, I thought, in a battle with someone else, but he seems to have lied. I think it was Heroder, actually. Yeah, it was Heroder who's distanced himself from Jansen since I last looked. So Rolf has about a second and a half to try and make up to the number 14 car. Let's see if he can try and demote Jansen, who himself has only gained one since the start, although Chris... Oh, and Eduardo Prado with problems. This looks like something that happened in Bill Mitchell Bend. But you know what? I think this is the curb. And then a glitch. Get out your barf bags on this one. And see him swing a little wide, and I think the car bottoms out. And he just unfortunately caught the wall a little bit awkwardly, and the iRacing code unfortunately didn't like that one.
Yeah, that corner is definitely a corner in these cars. There's some real high downforce cars that, you know, maybe you might have to lift a little bit to get through it okay. Some cars will be able to take it flat out if the conditions are right. That's not the case in, well, okay, if you hit it just right, you can do it flat out. But you definitely have to be aware of it. You can't say, okay, I'm out of Canada and now I've got to worry about the final turn.
Go to Marco Kika because he just got mugged and then tapped in the back, but the battle is still going. It was between himself and David Rolf. He just about gets the spot back from Rolf as he does get it back. Wow. Repassed him. Coming through 6 and 7. Now Schlacker's going to try and get back by since that spot was recently taken from him. That doesn't work out in the hurry downs. So your new order is Kika in 12th, Rolf 13th, and Schlacker in 14th.
Yeah, Keller actually, not Kika, but that's okay. I said Stefan Schlacker was Hungarian, and he's not. He's actually from a couple countries over called Australia. Or maybe even Austria.
We're having some fun at poor Stefan's expense here.
He's having some fun. At poor David Roth's expense.
So David has his bad day come to an end in Canada Corner, where he's already had some problems. Let's watch from above here.
Is Stefan going to be able to continue? Because he definitely got a piece of it. It's not as bad as Roth.
Yeah, that was a hard thwack to his left front suspension for sure. He's trying to keep going. He doesn't come into the pits.
That's a race that Roth is definitely going to want to forget. See if Schlacker's still able to recover something from here. I mean, he has a number...
19?
Yeah, he has the number 19 car. Started 18th, he's in 14th, so if he can continue, he's still having a decent run. I'm sure he's not pleased with himself for that contact with Roth, but he might be able to pick up a position here. This is Barry West. West has been running at the back all day. I almost wonder if he got some kind of damage early on, because he's definitely not been up to top form.
Yeah, he was involved in some contact. But let's go to 7th, where Hawken has not only been caught by Suarez, but here comes Tommy Unhola, who started 17th. And this makes a lot more sense to me than Tommy's initial qualifying. He tends to be pretty fast in these cars. So he's climbed his way forward and is already into the top 10. as he continues to follow behind as they come down into Canada corner. Suarez close, but not close enough. Continuing to hound Brandon Hawkins, or excuse me, Hawken. Apologies for adding an S in there at every corner.
I'm getting a lot of things wrong today, yeah.
I've been watching the new season of Stranger Things, so I blame that. Found his name, Hawkins.
Yeah, well, keep an eye on this battle, especially as it looks like it might be coming to a throw as they head into the first corner. No, or maybe not. Suarez backs out of it a little bit. But it's worth keeping an eye on the fact that Bycroft hasn't completely trekked out on Frazier. Frazier is still within 2 seconds of him, and if for whatever reason, conditions start to favour the number 12 car late on, we could still have a little battle for the lead. But right now, this battle for 7th is what's on. Suarez being challenged for 8th place by Unhola.
Ben's got to run. Oh, but he's covered off very late by Suarez. Comes back to the racing line. Suarez gives him room, but he's deep onto the brakes. Nearly gets into Hawken. Still side by side as they come off the corner, but it's another left-hander up into 6th. Suarez parks it on the apex and denies Unhola that spot.
Very aggressive racing we're seeing out here today. I mean, a lot of it's been clean. We've seen it not be clean at a couple of points during the race. It's quite enjoyable, honestly. Let's hope these guys can keep it on the track as Hawken continues to lead ahead of Suarez and Unhola, 7th, 8th, 9th.
Yeah, right now, Unhola's biggest fan is Brandon Hawken, who allows himself the opportunity to pull away. They come through the kink, down through the kettle bottoms. Once again, getting close, but not sure that Tommy was close enough this time by. They break for Canada corner, all still on the line. Your order is Hawkins 7th, Suarez 8th, and Unhola in 9th. He gets a good run off the final turn. This could be exactly what he needs. He's within about a car length and a half, and this looks fantastic for Tommy.
And we know he wants a position because he was trying to get it earlier in the lap. He just needs to put himself in position to get it.
Yeah, but the slipstream does not seem to be doing him enough good. I thought for sure he was going to have that. So Suarez just holding him at bay. Another decent run off of turn 1. Doesn't produce anything down into 3. Could we potentially see something where it erupted last time? Turn 5. Not seeing the sort of gains that we saw. And Suarez doesn't even go defensive. He stays on the racing line. Now he goes defensive.
So while these three stay in order, it's worth noting there's been a change for 10th. Chris Jansen has moved up into 10th place ahead of Dustin Hevedor. I think Dustin had the spin at the final turn.
A spin and contact with the wall. Another... Oh, and it was almost exactly the same as what we saw with Prado, except that in this case, he spun to the right instead of the left. It's looking like drivers need to really avoid centering over that curb.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, that's definitely a turn in these cars. These cars don't behave too well over this crest of a hill, and depending on your angle of attack, you can get it right or you can get it wrong.
No, even though he touched the wall, we're seeing a little wing damage, but I don't think the suspension was damaged. He managed to pull away from it and keep going. He's in 11th.
But every car behind him has damage. Such has been the nature. We've seen such an aggressive race today. Not necessarily, I wouldn't even say an ugly race. We've just seen some argy-bargy out there at points, and so he might be okay given the fact that every car behind him is having a problem. So there we see Steve Bycroft just set the fastest lap of a race until 1.5 seconds later when Adam Frazier came over the line and set the fastest lap of a race. Frazier has been running Bycroft down. He's been faster the last couple of laps, not significantly, only hundredths of a second, but it's still he's still a threat for Bycroft. So... unless, of course, Bycroft is just managing the gap. I guess we'll find out if Frazier does anything special. Although the fact that they both set their fastest lap tells me that they're pushing it.
Yeah, certainly as that fuel goes down, the car's getting quicker and quicker. And interestingly, the track temperature is still down to 109 degrees. So it is...
I'm sorry, Joe.
Still... cooling.
Fraser must have had a moment there in a couple of returns, not one that we saw, but you can see the gap has now gone up by half a second. It's back over 2 seconds.
I thought I saw him go a little wide at turn 5 as we were talking about him, but didn't mention it. It is worth mentioning as well that Kochi is not a threat to Fraser either. He's fallen back to 4.1 seconds, but we were wondering about whether or not he was holding up the cars behind him. I'm not sure that that's the case because Cullen Brown has settled back to about 1.3 seconds. Now, unless he also is biding his time or trying to get out of the wake a little bit of the car ahead, it just doesn't seem like Brown or Nora Lampe are faster than Kochi anymore.
Yeah, definitely a bizarre race we're seeing here today. If you follow this series, like I say, I would have expected Nora Lampe to be doing a lot better, especially with the absence of Fraser. Hasn't been the case. Fraser led in the number 12 car. He got pole. And sometimes, you see a number 12 car get pole and you're like, okay, they're good at hot lapping, but they're not going to stay up there. Even though Fraser's not leading the race anymore, he's still doing a whale of a job to keep it up there in second position.
I agree. This is a phenomenal drive from the number 12. Looking at a pretty likely podium at the least, as long as he keeps it together. Really, our best climber, just had a big mistake himself. Tommy Unhola, down in 9th position, was continuing to apply pressure on the 2 cars ahead of him. Coming into turn 1, just lost the car. Thankfully, didn't hit anything or spin. But watch this from on board the fin, Sam.
Yeah, the other nice thing for Unhola here is he had such a big gap over Jansen, so just got a bit of oversteer in the first corner, went out in the grass. That there's a lot of grass and gravel around Road America here. The walls are quite close too. As we've got a battle on the screen here, Joe.
That's Suarez to the inside. And they touch! Hawken gets turned. He tries to collect it, but he loses both positions as Unhola and Suarez slip by. So you can see it starts here into turn 5. We're on board Suarez, who's got the inside for both corners. Now, does he track out, or is this... I'd say he was pretty far inside.
We'll get another replay of it here. I didn't think we would have to bring this up, Joe, but remember these drivers, because this is an official series race, these drivers do have an incident limit of 17 incident points. I wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing some drivers get quite close to that right now.
From that angle, it looked like a little bit of netcode, at least from our replay on the blimp, but hard to say for sure. Regardless, we know it wasn't intentional, and it does give 7th to Pablo Suarez. Adam Fraser sets another fastest lap, Sam. That was a good catch on noticing how much he's been picking away at Bycroft.
Yeah, well, I mean, we saw Fraser had that mistake a little while ago, and it was over 2 seconds. At the line, it was back down to 1.6. It looks like Fraser didn't have a very good turn 3 because he's lost a bit of time now, down back up to 1.9 seconds. But the other thing that I keep noticing, Joe, is Bycroft as we get a battle for 7th again.
Yep, that was Unhola going by Suarez, and I'm not sure if that was a mistake from Suarez or... Yeah, it was, actually. Yeah. Suarez also with an oversteer moment into turn 1. We get a little bit of opposite lock there. Manages to catch it, but it slows him down enough that Unhola, despite his mistake, has now picked up 2 positions in 2 laps.
If only it was that easy to make positions all the time, right? Fraser's having a hard time, of course, trying to close the gap down on Bycroft, because like I was about to mention, Joe, what keeps happening is Bycroft keeps setting fastest lap, and then Fraser keeps setting fastest lap. Now, as you mentioned a little while ago, that's to be expected with the fuel burn, but it's also showing you that neither driver is backing down. They're both pushing it. They're both giving it 100%, and we could be in for a good little race, a good little scrap here for the final 6 laps. Let's see if it happens again. Bycroft across the line, and Fraser behind him. Didn't see any purple that time.
No, I think both a little bit slower But Frazier, you're right, keeping Bycroft honest, making him work for this victory. And it sounds like Phil Lake has had a problem because he is towed to the pits. Trying to see if I can figure out what exactly happened. It's coming down into turn 5. You know, wonder if he just was so damaged and lacking pace that with him being at the very back of the field, he decided it's not worth continuing to trundle around. We've come back live, and this is Johan Orloppi, certainly not trundling, and in fact has closed in on Cullen Brown, now to within half a second, challenging for 4th place.
But we've seen Orloppi in this position a couple of times before this race, and he hasn't been able to do anything with Brown. So catching is one thing, passing is another. And even if he could pass, it's going to take him about half a lap until we come around to the opportunities to make a move. Right now, though, Orloppi giving Brown something to think about, but maybe Brown's not too worried.
I suspect that maybe Brown made a little bit of a mistake somewhere because I noticed that he dropped to about 2 seconds off Kochi. So putting the pieces together, the little gray cells are telling me that it is more Brown falling back into Orloppi than necessarily Orloppi catching up to Brown. The clouds come over once again as they swing through Canada. The track temperature, though, has absolutely shot up since we last looked. 120 degrees out there on the surface now.
Yeah, you can only be at Road America when a place called Canada is 120 degrees. Bycroft has been able to eat out a couple of tenths, open the gap back up a little bit over Frazier. With only 5 laps to go, Frazier might be running out of time.
Yeah, I'm not sure that he's really got anything on Bycroft unless we see Steve make a big mistake and lessen that gap, because I don't think that Frazier's getting any sort of help from the slipstream, from the gap that we're seeing between the two cars. They plunge down into turn 5 one more time. And with how much attrition we've had out here, we have no need to worry about lap traffic. It is a long ways, almost a half a lap between Bycroft and the next car up.
Wow, quick Google search, Joe. The hottest temperature ever recorded in Canada is 113 degrees. That's a lot lower than what I would have thought.
Well, remember, this is track surface that we're talking about. The actual temperature outside, the air temperature is 83 degrees currently here in Wisconsin as we take a peek at Unhola, who may have gotten past with the mistake of Suarez, but Suarez has regrouped and is seeing if he could get himself back into P7.
Yep, let's start paying attention to the race rather than Google search again. All right, 7th place, as you mentioned, quite close between Unhola. And as you mentioned a little while ago, Joe, this has been a fantastic race by Unhola. He started all the way down in 17th. Now, granted, he has a number 8 on these cars, so maybe he just qualified out of his league. Didn't have or rather under his league, didn't have a good qualifying attempt and has been trying to work his way up through the field ever since.
I'm looking at his race pace versus his lone qualifying lap. He's a little off the apex coming through Canada. And he ran a 55.3 or 55.5, excuse me, in his qualifying. And he's been able, his fastest lap in race pace is 55 flat.
Yeah, sorry, we just had Unhola sticking his nose out for 4th position there, Joe. And I think it was Brown was blinking a little bit there. And I don't know where I came up with Unhola from Orloppi. But yeah, Orloppi sticking his nose out, but doesn't look like he's as close here. Now, could this be the cooler conditions favouring Orloppi's car?
It could be. It is down to 116 degrees now that the cloud has come out. And to be fair, Orloppi and Unhola are both Finnish drivers. But currently the higher Finn, Orloppi, working on the Texan of Cullen Brown and starting to really pressurize that black machine in front of him. Cullen a little bit clear coming through turn 6, gives him a slightly bigger gap.
To the braking zone, they're coming through the carousel here. You mentioned aero wake, Joe, and whether it destroys the tyres. I don't know if it necessarily affects the tyres in these cars, but there definitely is an aero wake, and this is a turn where you feel it through the ongoing carousel. Sometimes you also get a little bit of aero wake here through the kink. You'll have to lift if you're the following car. Honestly, Nora Lampe's dropped off a bit of ground, so he was probably able to take that flat out or close to flat out. But now they come back up to the passing opportunities. Heavy braking zone into Canada. We've seen how that could go south earlier, and Nora Lampe using all of the curb bottlenecks. So I don't know if that helped him or hurt him through this left-hander. As we've seen trouble there today too, and we've also seen trouble in this turn, the final right-hander. And, well, those two drivers both get through cleanly, but Nora Lampe's definitely lost a bit of time this lap to Brown. And as they cross the line, there's only 3 laps left. Nora Lampe's going to have to pick it up a little bit, which was very rare that we say that about him.
But one thing that isn't rare, and we've seen this in the past with the Preacher, is he's been a little bit inconsistent at times. He's very fast, but whether or not he finishes races or whether he finishes races well is something of a question mark, typically. He's regaining some of that ground on Cullen Brown, but he's only got 3 laps to go. He's got to start hustling if he wants to get himself ahead of the number 6 car.
The only driver really in the top 5 sitting safe or comfortable in their position is Nicola Cochi in 3rd place. Bycroft has pulled out 2 and almost 3 seconds now on Fraser. I really wonder if the cooler conditions is helping him out right now. But that being said, you know, a mistake from Bycroft will still hand the lead over the Fraser. Cochi's got a little bit of buffer behind him. He's got about 2.5, 3 seconds over Cullen Brown, which actually, now I say that out loud, that doesn't sound like a heck of a lot either.
Yeah, still open to a mistake. Now you see Barry West ahead of Heroder. That wasn't the case a couple corners ago.
Suarez is very slow. Suarez is blown up. Pablo Longoria Suarez, who was running in 8th place with just a few laps left to go. There was smoke trailing out the back of his number 20 car, and that's a shame because he has, as I mentioned, he has a number 20 car. He was running in 8th. Was this just a misshift, or did he put it in the wall somewhere?
I think he must have shifted down too early or something, because here on the replay, there it is. Into turn 6 is where it appears. Are you downshifting for that corner, or...?
Yeah, you can sometimes. I recall I would upshift from 2nd to 3rd coming out of turn 5, and then turn 6 you could take out even 2nd or 1st. I don't know if he went 3rd to 1st, maybe?
Well, the smoke may not have killed the engine, but the smoking sure was a sign that engine had died, unfortunately. 2 to go. As we jump back to our leader, Steve Bycroft, now up to 2.7 seconds. The number 5 has turned up the wick and tried to pull away just as the sun comes back out.
Trying to think of cigarette puns, Joe. Kind of hard.
I think that smoke joke was good enough for now, honestly. Give it a little bit of love.
Let's just blow it off. Yeah, let's blow it off.
There you go. Bycroft deserves a little bit of love and screen time with the race that he has run. You have to give him credit. He did not start at the front. He made the pass out on track since there's no pit stops in this series. And then, even though he was put under a little bit of a pressure for much of this race, he responded very well. I don't think we really saw much in terms of mistakes from Steve. This has been a cool drive that is likely to net him another win this season.
Yeah, I think I recall talking to him on the podium following not Brands Hatch, where were we last week? Road Atlanta, saying, you know, well, good luck next week. Let's see if you can finish a couple more steps up on the podium. And, you know, at Road Atlanta, he had cars in front of him that performed better than him that day. And today, he has definitely been the top performer. And even though Fraser just took a fastest lap, it's a little bit too late for that, I would say. 2.5 seconds down the road, Bycroft could pretty much just, race at 95% here, get through the rest of the corners okay. Obviously, a huge points day for all of our championship contenders who are not named Gurno Frisch. We have Bycroft up towards the front here, Nora Lampe 5th place. I'm sure he would have wanted more than that, but still a solid top 5. And honestly, Joe, there's a lot of points here because this is a top split race, and you have to have a lot of cars in these Lotus 79 races for the race to split. So Bycroft could be about to be gifted, honestly, probably one of the biggest jackpots in terms of points of the season.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's going to be knocking on wood, and I mean that literally. He's going to be knocking on the door of Matt Wood, who is one of the drivers he is competing with, who is not here today. So will be a drop week and a loss of an opportunity to take good points himself. Fraser down into Canada corner. Just a couple more to go. And Fraser did manage to set the fastest lap last time around, but there's no bonus points for that. Unlike modern Formula One, it is just down to where you finish on the track. Bycroft coming out of the final turn and up the straight across the line. It is going to be victory for the number 5 car today here in Road America.
Coachy will get 3rd, and I think Nora Lampe's made a mistake at some point. He's far behind Brown now for 4th and 5th positions. Honestly, not a whole lot of battles left out there, Joe. You see Adam Fraser got the fastest lap of a race on the final lap for good measure. And what a good race for Adam Fraser. Like I say, number 12 car, he comes home 2nd. Would have he preferred to win? Yeah, probably, but I think he can still hang his hat on that.
We don't need to show it, but Stefan Schlacker on that last lap didn't lose a position, but unfortunately a little run-in with the wall coming out of turn 6. He's able to bring this one home. So does Brandon Hawken, who comes home 8th. How about Carl Jansen as well, from 14th to 9th for him. Excuse me, Chris Jansen. I'm just channeling Bill today, Sam. I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, well, Chris Jansen did a great race from the country of Scandinavia. So, yeah, our geography is right on par today, Joe.
Stefan Schlacker is going to actually come to the pits and not even cross the line on track. He might actually... where's Mukanos? This might be a mistake because Mukanos might pass him. No, he won't. He'll just get across the line. So with that, we're going to take a quick break here on the Global SimRacing Channel. On screen, you're going to see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. And then after that, we've got the official results as well as driver interviews. So stick around. back to Road America here at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. And Steve Bycroft was your winner in round 5 of the Lotus 79 Classic Teams Championship. He started on the outside of the front row. He improved the only position he could improve and ran away with a 1.5 second lead at the line. Adam Frazier, who was our pole sitter, only held him off for a couple laps before Steve managed to get by, but then clung to the rear of him as long as he could. Nicola Kochi, who wasn't nearly as close to those top two, still came away with third. He was more concerned with the cars behind, including Cullen Brown, who finished fourth behind him, and Ewan Noralampi, who finished in P5. James Rawson, talk about an anonymous race. I don't know that we really showed him much at all, but he still got a 6th place. Tommy Unhola, on the other hand, got a lot of screen time as he climbed from 17th to 7th in the end. Brandon Hawken will be P8 at the end of things, with Chris Jansen finishing in 9th and Barry West rounding out your top 10.
Another driver that didn't get a whole lot of screen time, but that was probably a good thing today, given how much drama we saw out there. Dustin Herrider, he did have that spin in the penultimate corner, now I mention that. Stefan Schlacker, well, he was involved in a little bit of drama with David Roth, but he comes home 12th place on the lead lap ahead of Nicolas Mucanos, last car on the lead lap in 13th. Now we get to the drivers who ran into trouble. Pablo Lombardo Suarez was having such a great race. Something went wrong and he drops out of 8th all the way back down to 14th. Philip Lake retired, pulled out of a race after running a couple of laps down towards the end. He comes home 15th. And now we come into Marco Keller, who we had a bit of a run-in with David Roth out there that we didn't catch on screen. He ranks 16th at the end, ahead of David Roth, 17th. Eduardo Prado all the way back in 18th after an early retirement, and Rob Olyanek 19th. Gurno Frisch never made the start, and that could have huge championship implications.
Indeed, the implications on the championship are strong, with Steve Bycroft, who himself ran a very strong race. Steve, you had a little bit of pressure on you coming into this one, with everybody hyping you up in the forums, saying you're very fast, expecting you to win or finish well. And then suddenly you find yourself on the outside of the front row instead of pole. What were your thoughts as you gridded up?
Well, first off, that was Yuha playing some mind games, I think. My pace wasn't really that good. And Gurno, he would have won. So that was just some terrible luck there with the disconnect.
A little bit better luck for you today here in Road America compared to your experience over at Monza in the Camel GT series. Do you find that racing over in that series helps you over here, or is it something of a distraction having to switch back and forth between the two cars?
It's a little tougher, just because of the time, because that car is so hard to drive with the turbo lag. But I don't know, in some ways, maybe it does help.
Now, I don't know if you were paying attention to any of the track temperatures as things were going on, but from our perspective, at one point, it was 120 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface. Were you feeling that out there?
Yeah, grip wasn't near as good this race. I didn't know the exact temp, but I thought it was probably hotter than the earlier race today, just because, my pace wasn't as good. I just didn't have as much grip as before because I was running a little more trimmed out. And Adam, he drove, a great race. He's a fast driver. He's one of the guys that, I always look out for.
Clearly, you have to look out for him because he kept you honest all race long. But congratulations on the victory. This was an impressive run today.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Well, one thing before you go, Steve, I'm not sure if you've already seen 244 points for that win, with it being a split race. It's a big points day for you. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks a lot. That's nice. This is the highest iRating I've ever been, so I hope my good luck continues.
We hope so as well. For the number 5 car, maybe becoming a little bit lower of a number here soon for Steve Bycroft. Up next, Sam's going to talk to Nicola Kochi, who managed to get a podium today.
Yeah, Nicola, you had a quiet race out there today, it almost seemed like, which was quite rare. But hey, a third place finish in a very strong split, so congrats on that.
Yeah, thank you, dude. Those American. What happened when they drive on the American soils? It's like almost like they became Finnish, like from nothing. And three Americans and one Italian guy in the middle. It sounds like a movie that I never want to watch anyway. But yeah, uh, the race split, so there was a lot of points for everybody, and I saw that Gernot was had an issue. I don't know what's happening in Austria right now, but I keep hearing about people from Austria having internet connection issue, but I don't know what they are doing. But I'm sure that he would be, like Steve said, on the top with everybody. Needs to cope with it, but sadly for him it was knockout, and so it leave us to Steve and Adam. That Steve, I knew that he was very very fast, but Adam was a complete surprise for me. I was thinking to reel him off, but he kept his pace, and he was very very good. And the temperature was hot, and luckily my setup was dialed in for hot temperatures anyway. But I had a pretty quiet race for overtake and stuff like that, but I was pushing all the race long, and it's very dangerous to do that. But I had this guy that I don't know behind me, so I had to keep the gap, and luckily I was able to do that. But yeah, we need more European race in the in the schedule to make those American slow down a little bit, I guess.
Just to clarify, we got word actually from Gurno Freeshat. He had all his USB input devices stop working, so he had to reboot the computer, cold start it. By the time he came back, the race was starting, and then he had the same problem on lap one. So that's what happened to Gurno that unfortunately kept him out of contention today. But Nicola, you were up there, and I want to ask you about this before we let you go. You say you had a hot weather setup dialed into your car. How much do you think that helped you?
Well, I guess the big help there was to avoid those kind of little slide that cost you a couple of times every lap. So in the average pace, I don't think it was going to be a lot of difference, but just the fact that I was able to avoid those slides and those mistakes, I reckon it could be from, I don't know, 5 seconds to 10 seconds on the end of the race, something like that.
All right. Well, congrats on your podium today, Nicola, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys. See you there.
That was Nicola Kochi, third place finisher. A little bit farther down, but still a great drive, was seventh place finisher Tommy Unhola, who now joins us in the booth. Tommy, it looked like your qualifying didn't quite go to plan. We weren't used to seeing you start so far down. What happened?
Yeah, I forgot completely that I had to do something, and it took a bit longer than I thought. And I came back and had time for one lap, but it had a big mistake, and I thought I made the second lap, but it must be on last second or maybe even tenth of second as I didn't make it, so I got one lap with big mistake, so qualifying was that.
There was one point during the race where you kept getting positions due to others' mistakes around you. Did that kind of cause you to maybe back it off a little bit to keep the car steady and pointed forward, just because of how slippery it was out there?
Oh yeah, it was a bit hard to drive, and actually I got damage also. Car was taking a bit more fuel than I thought, and I was saving fuel in the end of the race, and it was kind of hard to drive. I think I had two contacts. Other was bigger, and my car jumped, and then I hit my floor in the curb two or three times or maybe 4 even. So car was not too bad, but it was hard to drive, and track was hotter than in practice. So it was interesting race.
And speaking of interesting races, next week we're going to Bathurst. That is, of course, pretty notorious for taking a lot of victims over the course of a race. How are you feeling about coming up to that Australian circuit?
I'm actually been waiting for it. I don't think I have driven it with this car, and it will be fun for sure. And this went much better than I thought. I have never raced this track with any car, so and had actually only half hour of practice. So I think Bathurst will be much better and more fun for me if I don't get busy all of a sudden.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to seeing if you have to make another climb or maybe have a dominant drive from the front. But congratulations on 7th.
Oh yes, thank you, and see you guys later.
That was Tommy Unhola, and that's going to close out our interviews for the day. So, of course, we want to thank the Lotus 79 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage, but also a big thank you to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Sam, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media. Check us out on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget, head on over to our YouTube page if you aren't there already. And if you haven't subscribed, there's a big red button that says subscribe. Click that and you won't miss a moment here on the GSRC. The next race, as we mentioned, we're going down to Australia for Bathurst. That'll be July 21st at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.